Now, a few things that we need to discuss tonight. Bank Negara Malaysia holds the overnight policy rate at 3.0%. That's in its most recent meeting on Thursday. We'll discuss about what are the impacts on the Malaysian ringgit and why has the central bank decided to do so. Next up, I recently went to Singapore for a very brief vacation, 3 days, 2 nights, and I was walking through the grocery stores, buying some stuff over there, and I decided that, hey, why not I do a thorough comparison between Singapore and Malaysia? And I found out that Singaporeans are 7 times richer compared to Malaysians on average. Yeah, they are pretty loaded with cash lah. But living in a first world country, of course, does come with its own sets of pros and cons, which we will discuss about. And finally, we will settle on the Employees Provident Fund. They are planning to propose this new monthly withdrawal mechanism. Actually, it's been in a pipeline for quite a few years already. But it has drawn quite a bit of backlash from members. We'll talk about the details. Yeah, this and more in our weekly analysis, as usual, not financial or legal advice. And a quick shout out to all our current learners and gatherers, our patrons. Thank you all so much for your support. Wow, it's been almost 2 years since we've been running this Patreon membership already, and we have members who have been supporting us since the start of creating our Patreon membership. So thank you so much, guys. Allow me to start with Andrew, Wendy, Edward, Alex, CC is Morpheus, Urshad, Caveman Balls, Calvin Kai, Thien, Tommy, Jinkang, Adrian, Eric, Jazz, Wenyan, Dean, Duhan, Ken, and Faris, including all our learner members as well. Now, diving into this week's news, Bank Negara Malaysia kept the OPR at 3.0%. The central bank announced this decision on Thursday. Now, prior to this, I did wrote quite a lengthy thread. It's regarding a recent Reuters poll conducted before the decision. Quite a lot of economists, I think 22 out of 25 economists in the poll, had expected Bank Negara Malaysia to go with this move, go with this pause. And within its statement, the current OPR level, according to Bank Negara Malaysia, is slightly accommodative and remains supportive of the economy. Now, this statement, slightly accommodative, could actually hint additional rate hikes to come in the near future, at least for this year alone. And in fact, a few research firms, they are putting the peak OPR by 2023 at 3.25%. So, not saying that we should expect it, but a final 25 basis point rate hike from Bank Negara Malaysia may be in the cards, depending on where inflation data goes and the economy goes, etc., etc. Okay, MPC, which is meaning Bank Negara Malaysia, they remain vigilant to ongoing developments, will continue to monitor incoming data to inform the assessment on the outlook of domestic inflation and growth. And here you can see their monetary policy snapshot. Most recent decision to keep the OPI at 3%. They believe it's slightly suitable to the health of the economy. Financing remains available amid sustained credit growth. Or the jargon over here. What's happening in the economy? Malaysian economy continues to expand. Income and employment remain favorable. Will continue to support household spending. It means that domestic demand is still quite resilient. Tourist arrivals continue to rise, support local businesses. Large projects are progressing well, so no major issues over here. Our exports will be lower due to softer global growth. Yeah, this is kind of expected as well. Inflation has moderated but remains elevated due to demand and cost factors. Yeah, if you take a look at Malaysia's most recent inflation figures for May, headline inflation has moderated to 2.8%, while core inflation, if you exclude volatile items like food and fuel, it's still quite sticky at 3.5%. Yeah. But compared to the figures a year ago, yeah, inflation has clearly moderated, but it's still a bit sticky. Okay, this is what Bank Negara is trying to say. How do we see the economy in the future? Malaysian economy will continue to grow. Inflation will slowly trend downwards to the central bank's target goal of 2%. Actually, it's pretty near the figure already. Yeah. And we will continue to monitor inflation and growth developments to ensure that the OPR continues to support growth while keeping inflation in check. Now, never have they mentioned anything about the Malaysian ringgit. Okay, and there is a big reason for this. I'll explain in the next few slides. But obviously, Bank Negara Malaysia's most recent pause over here had quite an impact on the Malaysian ringgit. We started off the earlier part of the week strengthening against the US dollar, I think 0.5%, from the 4.666 region to the 4.64 region. But that's because quite a minority of people were expecting Bank Negara Malaysia to surprise the markets, go with a 25 basis point hike in order to defend the ringgit. But obviously, we didn't get that. Okay? And then the Malaysian ringgit continued its downtrend against the US dollar, closed up on Friday at 4.666. Okay, so BNM's reserves to gradually decline. Yeah, so a lot of people are concerned about the Malaysian ringgit continuing to depreciate. And I think late last month, Bank Negara Malaysia came out and said that we will intervene in the currency market to ensure the ringgits will not see volatile fluctuations. And with this, RHB Investment warned that Bank Negara Malaysia's reserves could fall to $109 billion in 3 months due to the central bank's intervention in the currency market. Now, international reserves, they are basically assets denominated in foreign currencies held by Bank Negara Malaysia. They act pretty much as an emergency fund should the country go through an economic shock, which makes it extremely important. Okay, if you look at Sri Lanka, the reason why it went quote unquote bankrupt 1 to 2 years ago is because the emergency fund or its international reserves were completely drained. Okay, so as of May 31st, 2023, Bank Negara Malaysia's international reserves stood at $112.7 billion. So this decrease to 109 billion, this prediction is not a gigantic amount, just about 1 to 2%. Okay, but RSB Investment, they stress that Bank Negara Malaysia's intervention is very unlikely to have a long-term impact on the Malaysian ringgit. We kind of discussed about this in our one of our most recent Spotify sessions with two financial advisors, and both of them agreed that Bank Negara Malaysia will not suddenly turn on the jets, bring the ringgit to 4.44, contrary to a lot of people's belief. Okay, he added that the longer BNM delays on raising the overnight policy rate, the more likely the ringgit will continue to decline, as the US Fed's interest rate is projected to peak at 5.5 to 5.75%. So, Western countries like the US as well as the UK, they're still projecting further interest rate hikes. Meanwhile, Malaysia, at most, we are going with a 25 basis point hike only. And a lot of economies are expecting BNM to hold it at 3.0% already. And that obviously will have quite a negative impact on the Malaysian ringgit. Okay. Yeah, Bank Negara Malaysia's purpose, never to strengthen the ringgit. Okay. The purpose of OPR is not about the strength or the weakness of the Malaysian ringgit, contrary to popular belief. It is to ensure price stability, i.e. inflation. Remember just now the monetary policy snapshot I showed you just now? Let me just wind back. Never did they mention it was about the Malaysian ringgit. Okay. So next up, hikes are meant to tame price pressures, never about the ringgit. As Malaysia's inflation has moderated steadily to 2.8% in May, there's really no reason for the central bank to hike rates aggressively, as it will only add more unnecessary burden to citizens. Okay, so pick your poison. On the one hand, you have a weakening ringgit. On the other hand, Bank Negara Malaysia raises the OPR aggressively in order to defend the ringgit, which they're unlikely to do, but at the same time adding more burden to citizens. Okay, for me, I would definitely choose the first one, okay, which is a weaker ringgit. And at the end of the day, a weaker ringgit is not really detrimental. Okay, export prices become more attractive for foreigners, and it may be beneficial towards our economy as well. The long-term strength of the local note, this will need to come from effective government fiscal policies and economic development. Okay, so all of these points were covered in detail in our most recent session with Han, Liew, and Sani Hamid. You can basically access the replay in our Spotify. I'll show you guys where to look for it later after this session. Now, something a bit more interesting, Singapore, 7 times richer than Malaysia. I am surprised and not surprised at the same time. Okay, because I looked up GDP per capita. It's basically a measurement of a country's economic output per person, calculated by dividing the GDP of a country by its population. Okay, so over here, 2021, Malaysia per person 11,000 US dollars. Meanwhile, Singapore over 7 times higher, 72,800 US dollars. Pretty impressive. Now let's take a look at wage growth. Okay, in this case, Singapore clearly wins over Malaysia also. Okay, but it's a good thing to know that Singapore does not have a minimum wage. In fact, organizations, they tend to set like a minimum pay. Okay, not the government. Okay, so 12,000 lower wage food service workers to earn at least 1,750 Sing from March 1st. Yeah, so you kind of get what their minimum salary is over there already lah. And meanwhile, in Malaysia, yeah, as of January 1st, our minimum wage stands at a measly 1,500 ringgit per month. So this comparison, on surface wise, a lot of people would think that, oh, Singaporeans, their salary is 3 times higher because you converted it back to Malaysian ringgit. But we must put it dollar for dollar. Okay, you must put it at a number basis. In this case, Singapore still wins over Malaysia in that their quote unquote minimum wage is much higher. Okay. Next up, let's take a look at median salary. Yeah, what are the averages of Malaysia's salary compared to Singapore? Okay, so the median salary of Malaysia is 2,250 as of 2021. It increased by 9.1% compared to 2020. Meanwhile, the mean salary stood at 3,037 ringgit. Now, there's a big difference between median and mean. So the median here, the figure here, 2,250 ringgit, it means that half of the population are earning below this figure, while the other half of the population, they are earning above this figure. So that kind of gives you a very big mind blow right here, because a lot of people, they are still earning below this salary. Okay, meanwhile, the mean is just the average salary of all Malaysians. As for Singapore, yeah, I looked it up and my eyes grew wide. Singapore's median salary is 5,070 Sing. That's over 2 times higher compared to Malaysia. And let's not put conversions over here. Dollar for dollar, it's already 2 times higher. Okay. And you take a look at wage growth, right? From 2012 to 2022, how Singapore's salary every year has consistently grown. Okay. 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 10%. From 2019 to 2020, right? That's the COVID pandemic. There wasn't a big decline in the median salary also, just a slight, I think 1% drop from $4,563 to $4,534. Meanwhile, if I reverse back the same slide, during the COVID pandemic, Malaysia, we experienced a 15% decline in terms of median salary and a 9% decline in the mean salary. So in this case, Singapore is still by far the winner. Next up, let's take a look at things like food, fuel, etc., etc. Yeah, being a wealthy nation does come with its own sets of pros and cons. Yeah, Singapore's cost of living absurdly high in certain aspects. I think some of you guys know as well. The country currently holds a 2018 Guinness World Record for being the most expensive city in the world to own a car. I think if you want to own like just a normal car, your expenses jump by 2 to 3,000 Sing dollars per month. Okay, because the government, they implement some sort of tax system that keeps car population under control within that tiny nation. If you're looking to rent a shared condo, now this is like a shared room with someone else, okay, you can expect to pay roughly 700 Sing to 2,000 Sing per month. Okay, if you want a private space, yeah, that can go upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 Sing per month. Okay, Singapore is known for its efficient and affordable public transport. Yeah, usually ranging from 50 cents to 2.5 Sing dollars. Yeah, when I go there, right, I was kind of surprised that if you consecutively tap in multiple public transport systems, meaning that you're traveling with different modes of transport, public transport, sometimes the fare can go as low as 6 cents. Okay, so it's quite mind-boggling. Okay, with roughly $6, well, actually lesser than $6, even with $3 to $4, right, you can have a very nice mixed rice at a hawker store already. Yeah, or if you're feeling happy, $10. That's at McDonald's. You can see the latest menu over here, value meals. Yeah, 10.30 for Jang chicken meal. Yeah, Jang beef meal also 10.30. Their double quarter pounder is 10.95 only. Okay, obviously you don't want to do the conversion over here. You want to take a look at it dollar for dollar when it comes to purchasing power wise. So comparing currencies, yeah, in this case, Singapore also clearly wins against Malaysia. Like, this is not a fair comparison, but I just wanted to put it up here. The Sing dollar has rallied by over 40%, yeah, in the past decade against our Malaysian ringgit. And it's important to note that Singapore does not have a monetary policy based on interest rates. And this rally, you only see it in the most recent 2 years of the COVID pandemic. Yeah, that's because the tiny nation, they control inflation by strengthening the Sing dollar. That's their only method of controlling inflation. Yeah, they do not raise the overnight policy rate like what Malaysia does. Instead, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which is Singapore's central bank, they directly intervene in the currency market and strengthen the Sing dollar. Okay, since Singapore relies heavily on foreign trade, yeah, local inflation cools with a stronger Sing dollar. Okay. But it's not all doom and gloom for Malaysia, yeah. So just now I just talked about all the ring and roses, all the benefits about Singapore. But when you take a look at Malaysia, we are also doing not bad. Okay, compared to all our Southeast Asian neighbors, a few of them like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, we are on average 2 to 3 times wealthier than them. Okay. Fuel prices. Yeah, Malaysia is also very well known for extremely low fuel prices. You take a look at RON 95 and diesel, it has maintained at this price since the COVID pandemic until now. Okay, 2 ringgit 5 cent, 2 ringgit 15 cents. Meanwhile, RON 97, that's the one that is not really subsidized. I'm not sure whether it's subsidized or not. I think it may be a bit. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong in the general chat later. And this one is prone to fluctuations. During the pandemic itself, it went as high as 4 ringgit per liter. But if you want to pump petrol in Singapore, yeah, the same liter of RON 95, right, it costs you $2.75. Okay, which explains why a lot of Singaporeans they like to come to Malaysia to pump our petrol. So, okay. Next up, overall, our cost of living. Okay, if you take a look at Malaysia itself, right? Let's pinpoint to KL, okay? These days, if you want to find a decent lunch below 10 ringgit, it can be notoriously difficult. Okay, sometimes if you want to pair with a drink, your lunch could easily cost you 15 to 20 ringgit. But looking at the bigger picture, Malaysia's overall cost of living is much lower when you convert it into currencies like US dollar or Sing dollar, lah, of course. Okay, you can see cost of living for one person is 629 US dollars. In Singapore is over 3,000 US dollars. So the case over here, right, is like when somebody gives you 5,000 US dollars, on which country, Malaysia or Singapore, will you be able to live a more lavish lifestyle? And the answer becomes quite clear, right? Malaysia, you definitely can live somewhat like a king already with 5,000 US dollars. Meanwhile, in Singapore, a lot of your expenses go to renting a HDB flat or paying your mortgages, paying for a car that really eats up into your monthly earnings, lah. So this is where Malaysia clearly wins against Singapore. And lastly, yeah, our food here is also generally better, lah. Okay, I went to Singapore, I tried their food there. Honestly, I think their food is, sorry guys, if there are any Singaporeans here, your food is quite bland, lah, okay? And their bak kut teh there is very different compared to Malaysia. Okay, their bak kut teh there is actually called it's called bak kut teh, but it's kind of like pepper soup. But when it comes to Malaysia, Malaysia is like a herbal black color soup, lah. And I kind of prefer the right side one. Okay, so yeah, that's just a bit of a funny comparison, in terms of Malaysia and Singapore, lah. Hopefully, you guys understand both of these countries more in depth. And next up, the last topic of the night, the Employees Provident Fund. They plan to implement a monthly withdrawal mechanism. Basically, a portion of member savings up to a certain limit, it will be converted into a monthly income. Okay, and the remaining portion can be withdrawn lump sum. So currently, once you reach the age of 55, you have the option to withdraw all your retirement savings. And what EPF wants to do is that they kind of want to limit people whether they can withdraw the entire thing or not, and give them an option to convert it into a monthly income. Needed to prevent old age poverty and for consumption smoothing during retirement, transition is necessary. Now, this is according to EPF, as the average life expectancy of Malaysians have increased from 54 years to 75 years since 1957. Yeah, it's no doubt lah, that people are living longer these days, and we definitely need a more sustainable way to preserve our retirement savings. But this option has drawn a lot of backlash from members. Many people voted for freedom of choice when it comes to managing their retirement savings. For me, I think it's not necessarily a bad implementation. Okay, if you look at it at a more fair standpoint, it actually can help members. Okay, but just give them an option, okay, whether they want to opt in or out for this monthly income thing. Just want to quickly inform you guys, there are a lot of scammers these days. A lot of fake Shinjis lurking in the server. So just be really careful. My handle, the official handle is shinji.ong. You can see over here the scammer shinji.ong. They're getting really smart these days. Hashtag 2263. Yeah, obviously this is a fake profile. If you don't know about this, then just take a look at the join dates. Okay, I've been a member since 2015. I started the Discord in 2021. Okay, so just bear in mind, guys, I won't directly message you first. And I don't run any brokerage or crypto firms. Okay, I wish I do, but I don't run any of them. The only paid service that I run is on Patreon, okay, which I will show you guys right now. It's over here. So this is the only thing that we're currently running. This is the one of the main ways for us to earn revenue. And I think the easiest way to prevent yourself from getting scammed, right, is just to subscribe to our Patreon membership. Then you clearly know that I have nothing else to sell you already. It's only this one. Plus, it only costs you $1 per month. Okay, but anyway, so yeah, that's all for the presentation for tonight. For those of you guys who have any questions, do pop it over at the general chat. And talking about my most recent Spotify session, right? For those of you guys who want access to it, it's at podcasts and presentations. You'll be able to see a list of or a history of all our previous podcasts. And each of these episodes, they really give a lot of value. I highly recommend you guys to just go and give it a listen. All right. So let me see. Any questions? Speaking of food prices, people think I'm joking, but I eat menu rama 3 out of 5 working days. Yeah, boss. Malaysia's food prices is getting quite absurd. There's no doubt about that. And I think that really eats up a lot of our monthly expenses as well, if we are talking about in terms of when we compare it to Singapore. Yeah, in Singapore, actually, you can get a very nice meal for 2 to 3 Sing dollars already. That's where Singapore clearly wins out against Malaysia. But again, it's not all just a bit of roses. Okay, if you enjoy living in a very small enclosed space, sharing a room with somebody else while earning a very high salary per month, then go ahead. Okay, so I always tell people that the best option is to just go there and work, earn their salary there, and come back and spend here. Then you'll pretty much live like a king or queen already. Hope you guys enjoyed the session for tonight, and do join us for the next one and the following one as well. All right, guys, I won't keep you guys for long. Thank you so much. Bye. Good night.